Hi Year 8. The purpose of this video is to give you some information in relation to your subject choices that you'll be making for Year 9 2022. And the first thing that you need to be aware of is what we call a Record of School Achievement. Now the Record of School Achievement, or ROSA, is issued to you by NESA at the end of Year 10, and you'll get one at the end of Year 11, and it lists all the subjects that you have completed and it gives it a grade for each of those subjects. And the reason why you get that is because that will then be needed to be used when you make an application to go to TAFE for an apprenticeship or a traineeship. Now, should you decide to stay on in Year 11 and 12, then the ROSA is not needed because your HSC will override that. But if you happen to be in Year 11, for example, and halfway through you decide you want to go and do a trade and become a plumber or an electrician or whatever the case may be, then you will need your ROSA because that'll become part of your application process to TAFE or college. So the results that you get in stage 5 are really important, regardless if you're going to HSC or not. Now that Record of School Achievement will comprise of a number of mandatory subjects: English, Maths, Science and History, where you have to do 400 hours of Maths, 400 hours of English and 400 hours of Science over Year 7 to 10. You also need to do 400 hours of History as well. So you'll do 100 hours in stage 5 and in stage 4 of history, and you'll do 100 hours in stage 4 and 5 of geography. So that will total up to 400 hours there. On top of all that, you'll need to do 300 hours of PDHPE between Year 7 to 10. You'll need to do at least 100 hours of another language, which you have done, and you will be finishing off at the end of Year 8. That is why you don't have to pick Arabic or French for next year. That's why they are electives and they're not compulsory, because you've already met that 100 hours. You'll need to do 200 hours of creative arts, which you will also be finishing off at the end of Year 8. We do 100 hours of visual art and 100 hours of music. And we also, as of 2008, need to complete 200 hours between 7 and 8 of tech mandatory, which you're almost finishing up now as well. Now, the compulsory subjects, like I've just mentioned, are your English, Maths, Science, PDH, Religion, Geography, and History. What the purpose of now, what stage you're at now is you need to pick the last 2 subjects to formulate your timetable for stage 5, which is Year 9 and 10. And in order to do that, you need to pick one subject from line 1 and one subject from line 2. Okay, so a line is basically a collection of subjects that is then used to determine your timetable. This is why you cannot pick 2 subjects on one line, because that means you're in 2 places at once. So if you pick commerce and drama on this line, how are you going to be in your commerce class and in your drama class at the same time? Impossible. So you need to pick one from here and one from here. Now, some typical combinations I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, commerce and PAS tend to go well together. A lot of students who like the practical side of sport, of PDHPE, coaching and physical activity, they tend to pick PAS, and then they usually marry it up nicely with commerce. Commerce is like your business, your economics, your finance, your everyday life type of stuff is done in commerce. So those 2 usually match up well. I'm not saying they are compulsory to match them up, but that's what I've seen a lot of students do in the past. If you're more of a creative type person, maybe dramas for you, or maybe music or even visual arts could be for you. If you like to make things, so maybe food tech, timber, textiles could be for you. If you're pretty keen on computers and like to develop and create things on computers, maybe IT multimedia might be the subject for you. If you're the type of student who really is doing really well in maths and science and has a strong interest in engineering and technology and wants to combine all of that together, then maybe STEM is for you. And I'll be looking at your science and your mathematics results when you pick that subject. If you've performed exceptionally well in Arabic or French this year, I highly recommend that you do pick Arabic or French as one of your electives, because employers really like it when an employee or an applicant can speak, read and write more than one language. It'll actually go in your favor. Okay, so we do offer quite a few subjects. Like I said, you pick one subject from this line and one subject from that line. Please do not pick from both lines. 2 subjects on one line. You have to pick one from each side. Now, there are some caps on some of these electives, particularly timber and food tech. There's a cap of 15 students for each one, and that's purely because of the size of the room and WHS issues. Should I have so many students picking both timber and food technology, I'll then have to sit with the KLA coordinator, have a look at results, behavior record, end warnings, all that sort of stuff, and make decisions as to who can get into those courses and who can't. If you are in the category where you can't get into that course, you will be asked to pick something else. Now, for every subject that you do in stage 5, you have to complete it satisfactorily. In order to complete a course satisfactorily, you need to follow everything that your teacher tells you to do, because that's come from NESA. NESA tells your teacher, then the teacher tells you. You need to apply yourself with diligence and sustained effort for everything. In other words, you maintain your consistency and your approach consistent effort. And you also have to achieve most, if not all, of the course outcomes. And that's done through all of your assessments. Now, failure to do that will result in what we call an N warning. Now, some of you watching this video now have already been issued with an N warning for various assessments for various subjects. N warnings are not a good thing, okay? The first letter that you get for an N warning is a chance for you to rectify the issue. So let's say it's plagiarism, or let's say that it's you failed to hand in an assessment. If you meet the requirement within the 2 weeks, that's it. It's over. The N warning gets wiped away. It stays on your record, but we start again, okay, which is great. If you fail to meet that requirement, we go to the second warning letter. Now, the second warning letter means I got to call your parents in and we have a chat and I issue the warning letter. And I explain the seriousness of that letter. And I also give you another 2 weeks to complete the work. Again, failure to do it will then result in what we call the third and final letter. At this point, you'll be asked to repeat your entire year. Not the subject, the entire year, because you did not meet the course requirements. That's a NESA rule, not my rule. And this will then impact on you being able to choose similar subjects in stage 6. I had 2 cases of this last year, 2 separate year groups, where a student got to the third and final warning for tech mandatory actually, at the end of year 8, and then was basically told you have to repeat year 8. You're not going to be able to progress to year 9. And the parents were notified of this. So that student decided to do year 9 again, but not in our school. He went to another one. But he's now 1 year behind because he did not meet that requirement. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. And warnings are serious, and I don't like to issue them at all unless I absolutely have to. Attendance is also important. Absence can, especially if you're absent a lot, can result in you not meeting the course requirements because you have to meet those hours that I mentioned earlier. However, if your leave has been approved by the principal, that's different. We can justify it. Or if you've got your medical certificates, we can justify it. And if you're away for more than 1 term, I'll need to actually let NESA know, because that will then impact on you meeting your course requirements, and they need to be aware of why you've been absent for so long. So wherever you can be at school, please be so. Attendance is important. In terms of your grades, all your subjects at the end of year 10 will have an A, B, C, D, or E attached to it on your rosa. Those are determined by performance descriptors, so all those marking criteria that we keep giving you. However, in maths, they award it a little bit differently. They have the higher end A, the lower end A, the higher end B, lower end B, and so on. So maths is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you're still getting a grade. Okay. Now, in terms of English, as you know, English is mandatory, even in your HSC. Now, the level of English you end up in year 9 will be determined by your results in year 8. So myself and the English coordinator will sit down and determine who gets into 9-1 and who gets into 9-5 and everything in between. Now, just because you've been placed in that class does not mean you don't have the opportunity to move up or to move down. If we feel you can move up, we will move you up. And if we feel you need that additional support, we will move you down a class to make sure that your results are a true indication of what you can achieve. Now, the skills that you'll be continuing to develop to help you out with your HSC will be reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing. Now, the main difference between the levels, so if you get into 9-1 and your mate gets into 9-3 for English, the main difference will be the novel that you study or the film that you study. So you won't be studying the same film or the same novel, and maybe some of the activities might be slightly different. But at the end of the day, it is still English that you're being taught. It's just being taught a little bit differently with different novel or different film. Now, maths is pretty important, and I need you to understand the difference between the mathematics classes. If you get into mathematics stage 5.3, that's the top level maths, and only the top 25 students in year 8 will be able to do this course. The students who get into this course can do mathematics advanced in year 11 and 12, and the students who are doing this sort of maths are those who are keen on pursuing courses at university that have a heavy maths level. So for example, engineering, physiotherapy, accounting, those sorts of things. Okay. If you get into 5.2 maths, 5.2 is also a very good mathematics level. It's the middle ground, and you can still do mathematics in year 11 and 12. You'll do mathematics standard. There'll be 2 classes of that. So you'll have 1 class of 5.3, 2 classes of 5.2, and then we'll also have what we call the 5.1 mathematics. Now, 5.1 mathematics is for those students who feel that maths is a little bit difficult and you struggle in it. If you do 5.1, you'll be able to actually achieve the outcomes a lot better because the maths is taught a little bit differently to help you reach that. The only thing you need to be aware of is if you're planning on doing mathematics standard or advanced in year 9, 11 and 12, you can't do it if you do 5.1. NESA won't allow you, but you can still do maths in year 11 and 12, but you'll have to do mathematics standard 1, which basically means it won't count towards the calculation of that mark that you need to go into university, so that ATAR result. That's something I can explain to you a little bit more detail a little bit later on. But I can't stress enough, if you're planning on going into university to do some courses that do require a level of maths, 5.3 and 5.2 would be the one that you're aiming to get into. So please make sure you're working hard to achieve those results in year 8. In terms of science, as you already know, science is all about inquiry and the process to working scientifically, and you will continue that in years 9 and 10. And the focus will be to help you to use scientific evidence to evaluate claims and make explanations and predict things. Science is really heavily used at the moment with all of this COVID stuff because they're trying to come up with explanations as to why things are happening. Okay, very strong correlation or combination with the medical field as well. In terms of science, you'll be doing the working scientifically stuff like you have been doing now, but you'll also be looking at things like the physical world, earth and space, the living world, and the chemical world. These subjects here, or these topics here, will help you decide which science subjects you do in year 11 and 12, biology, physics, or chemistry. Okay, so what's the process from here on in? What's going to be required from you, obviously, is to watch this video, which you're doing now. You need to review the material for each of the elective subjects on our subject selection channel, which I've already shown you where it all is. You'll need to fill in the subject selection form, which I'll make available to you on Thursday during sport. So basically now. And then once you fill in the form, I'll review all the selections and then I will get in contact with you if there are any issues with your subject choices. And like always, if you've got any questions or you have any issues, please post your questions in the subject selection channel and I can address them there. But if you want to address the question specifically to a KLA coordinator, please do so, but send it to them via email because they don't all have access to that Teams channel. I do wish you all the best of luck with your subject choices. Please make sure you review everything and think about it before you make your decision. And please don't pick subjects based off what your mates are doing or what your cousins did or anything like that. Do what suits you and what suits your interests and what suits your abilities. Best of luck, Year 8, and God bless.